was were known as sultans. They ruled from Delhi. They ruled, actually picture is not clear. Delhi, their capital city, right? So this period was called Delhi Sultanate, and the rulers were called Sultan. The Mamluk dynasty. Today we are going to start. Muhammad Ghori died in 1206 and he had no heirs. Right? So he had no heir. Heir means he had no waris in Hindi. It is called waris in Hindi. And what is the meaning of heir in English? He had got no successor. Like he had got no progeny. He had got no children who would succeed. Who would succeed, of course, after his death. So what happened? So he, whatever viceroys he had already deployed a lot of viceroys and different authorities in different places, as I have told you in the second part of the chapter, that he had deployed many authorities in the different parts of India, different lands in India, because it was not possible for him to rule all over the territories which he had won in the wars. So what he had done, he had deployed different authorities, viceroys in different places, or the places which he had won. Then what happened after his death? He had got no heir as such. Then these viceroys declared themselves independent in different parts of his empire. So they declared themselves as rulers in different parts of the empire, right? Kutubuddin Aibak was one of them. See here, we have already studied this. Kutubuddin Aibak as his viceroy in Delhi, he had deployed Kutubuddin Aibak Ghori. So Kutubuddin Aibak also declared himself as independent ruler in Delhi. So he assumed control of Indian possessions and led the foundation of Delhi Sultanate, right? And he also got control of Indian possessions, like Muhammad Ghori, whatever he had won in India, or whatever possessions, whatever riches, wealth he had won in India, he took all control over all these riches and wealth. And he also took control of Delhi in his hand. So a former slave in Muhammad Ghori. So who was he? Kutubuddin Aibak was a slave, obviously. He had been deployed as viceroy in Delhi. So obviously he was a slave in the empire of Muhammad Ghori. So earlier who was slave, now he is the ruler of Delhi. He is the controller of Delhi. He rose to the position of general in the army by again this is not clear, merit. The dynasty founded by Kutubuddin is referred to as Mamluk or slave dynasty. So the dynasty made by him was called Mamluk or slave dynasty. So Kutubuddin Aibak. Now we are going to read about Kutubuddin Aibak in much detail. So Kutubuddin ruled for 4 years only. See here, 6 to 10. According to court historians, he was a just and generous ruler who looked after welfare of his subjects. So he was a kind of ruler who was very kind, who was very generous. Generous means udar in Hindi, or generous means kind, right? And let me tell you some other meaning of generous. So generous means noble in his behavior. He was pity, he was kind, he was willing to help his subjects. He was not like very oppressive towards his subjects, because obviously the subjects were Hindu and he was a Muslim ruler. So but even then, in spite of this fact, he did not do anything unjust towards his subjects, towards his people. So he was a, let's go to the next page. So he was known as a laksh, again this word is not clear, or giver of lakhs. He treated Hindus well. So his behavior towards Hindu was very decent. However, he broke several ancient temples to collect wealth and material required to build mosques and other monuments. So this is what they did. What these Muslim rulers used to do, they used to break temples, and they used to after breaking these temples they used to make mosques with the riches they had plundered from these temples. This is what they used to do in India. Qutbuddin built two mosques, one in Delhi and other Ajmer. Qutub Minar was another monument started by him. So Qutub Minar, it's a very famous monument. We must have heard about it. So he started Qutub Minar, but he could not complete, or he could not finish his construction because he died in between. So he's and completed by his successor. So the Qutub Minar was started by Qutbuddin Aibak, but completed by his successor Iltutmish. So Iltutmish was his successor. Firoz Shah Tughlaq added the fifth and the last story to it. Right, so Iltutmish also could not finish this Qutub Minar. So one more ruler, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, he added the fifth floor and the last story to it. That means ultimately Firoz Shah Tughlaq finished its construction. The Qutub Minar is one of the most famous monuments in India. We know some historians believe that it was used as minaret by the Muezzin to summon Muslims for prayer. So minaret is a place. So Muezzin is the, just a minute. So minaret, first of all let me tell you, minaret is the tower of Islamic mosque from which the Muezzin recites the adhan or call to prayer. So we must have heard about mullahs, we must have heard their ajan. So what they do, they go to these tall towers, and mullahs go to these tall towers and they call Muslims for the prayers. So what is Muezzin? The person who issues call to prayer from one of the minarets of a mosque. So what they do, they go to these tall towers and they call all Muslims to come to the mosque in order to offer prayer to gods. Now Iltutmish. In 1212 10, Qutbuddin died. He died in 1210, accidental fall from horse, though he was succeeded by his son Qutbuddin. Right. He was succeeded by his son. So who was his son? Actually, Qutbuddin, by his son Qutbuddin, was ultimately replaced by Iltutmish. So who was his son? Just a minute, wait. Actually here I got confused. Why it is written Qutbuddin? Though he was succeeded by his son Aram Shah. Actually Aram Shah was the name of the son of Qutbuddin. So here it should have been Aram Shah in place of Qutbuddin. I think maybe it is a printing mistake, it could be. That's why it is written Qutbuddin. So Aram Shah was his son, and he was the successor of Qutbuddin. However, Aram Shah was defeated by Iltutmish, and Iltutmish got the throne after Aram Shah, his son-in-law. So Iltutmish was the son-in-law of Qutbuddin, and he was a capable ruler. He first consolidated his possessions and then stabilized his position through shrewd and clever handling of all those who challenged his authority. So consolidated means he collected all his possessions, collected all his properties, all his possessions, everything, and then he kept all these possessions in the safer place. And now he tried to stabilize his position. He tried to establish himself as a ruler of the throne, and he was very shrewd, he was very clever, right? And by being so clever and shrewd, he became obviously a very capable ruler. And whoever challenged his authority, that means whoever wanted to have a fight with him, he controlled them, or he managed all these things very cleverly. So the Turkish nobles who had challenged his claim to the throne were suppressed. Now that there were some Turkish nobles also, right? Some people who nobles means some people who belong to Raj Darbar. So there were some Turkish people who belong to Raj Darbar who belong to Turkey. So they also tried to challenge his claim to the throne, because obviously Iltutmish belonged to Kutubuddin, and Kutubuddin was a slave in Muhammad Ghori's Raj Darbar. In his reign, he was a slave. So obviously it was natural for the Turkey nobles to claim his throne, because actually it did not belong to Iltutmish. It did not belong to Kutubuddin Aibak. Kutubuddin Aibak, after the death of Muhammad Ghori, Kutubuddin Aibak himself became the ruler. So in this way, it was not actually or naturally belonging to Iltutmish. That's why this Turkey noble got angry, and they decided that they would challenge his claim to the throne, or they would not let Iltutmish become the ruler of Delhi. But he, with his shrewdness, with his clever ideas, Iltutmish defeated all these Turkish nobles. The revolt of the Khilji governor of Bengal was crushed. Also, there was a governor called Khilji who also revolted against Iltutmish, but Iltutmish crushed that revolt also. That means he defeated Khilji governor also. The power of his external rivals, the rulers of Ghazni and Multan, was destroyed. Now Ghazni and Multan, their rulers, these rulers of Ghazni, because Muhammad Ghazni had already died, Muhammad Ghori already died. Now there were some rulers in Ghazni and Multan also. They also tried to challenge his authority. They also tried to defeat Iltutmish. They also did not want Iltutmish to take the throne of Delhi, but Iltutmish crushed them also, right? Because he was a shrewd ruler. A new danger presented itself when Mongol chief Changez Khan reached the border of India in pursuit of Shah of Persia, present day Iran. So this was a new danger presented to Iltutmish when Mongol chief, right? Mongol was another. Let me see here. It is if Mongol. Yes, see, Mongols. Yes, this was also a place in Afghanistan. So he also came to the borders of India, and in pursuit of, that means in search of Shah of Persia, present day Iran. So he came to Iran and he was in search of Shah of Persia, right? So that also posed a great danger to Iltutmish, but I think Iltutmish, see here, fled towards India in search of the shelter. Oh, Shah of Iran actually had fled towards India because he was searching for shelter. Maybe because of some danger, he was trying to search for a place to hide himself or to save himself, and he went towards India. And in search of this Shah, Changez Khan came. That posed a great danger to Iltutmish. Iltutmish politely refused to refuse, and by doing so saved India from the Mongol invasion, right? No, now Iltutmish, what he did, Iltutmish politely told this Shah of Persia that he would not be able to give any shelter to him, because had he given any shelter to Shah of Persia, he would have been in danger, because had he given any shelter to Shah of Persia, then what would have happened? This Changez Khan, who had come in search of Shah, maybe they had got some animosity between each other. They had got some enmity towards each other. So Changez Khan had already come to Indian borders in search of Shah because he wanted to kill him. But Shah requested Iltutmish to give him some shelter, but Iltutmish refused, because if he had given any shelter to Shah of Persia, then Changez Khan the ruler of I think not ruler, he was general of Mongol. He would have invaded India. He would have invaded, or he would have attacked Iltutmish. So Iltutmish refused. So by doing so, he saved himself. After getting rid of his enemies, Iltutmish defeated Rajput rulers of Ujjain and Ranthambore, Malwa, Gwalior. Now, uh, getting rid of all these enemies, we have short while back, right now we have studied these were the enemies: Turkish nobles, Khilji, rulers of Ghazni, Multan, and then Changiz Khan. All these were his enemies, and after getting rid of all these enemies, now what he did, he started attacking different Rajput uh, territories like Ujjain, Ranthambore, Malwa, Gwalior, and he defeated all these rulers. He brought the whole North India up to the river of Narmada under his control. Right? So what he did, he annexed the whole North India up to the river of Narmada. So let's see the map. So he annexed all these territories to his own lands. Under his control, the Caliph of Baghdad recognized him as the sovereign of India. So the Caliph of Baghdad recognized him as the sovereign of India. Right? So Caliph of Baghdad means Baghdad was a place, still it is a place around here and this area. So he recognized, or he accepted Iltutmish as the ruler of India up to that place. So let's see up to Narmada. Here it is given up to Narmada. I think see, yes, Narmada. This river is, I think, Narmada. So up to this river. So up to this river, see, Narmada. Up to this river, if I am not mistaken, I think this is Narmada. So up to this area, Iltutmish annexed this land of India to his own land, and he controlled, or he captured the Indian territories up to this place. Right? Iltutmish reorganized the finance and revenue departments of Sultanate. Right? He reorganized finance and revenue departments. That means those departments in which money comes. So revenue, how revenue comes? When peasants or farmers give money or give taxes to kings, to the rulers, then this is the source of revenues for rulers. Right? So these departments he reorganized, Iltutmish. The empire was divided into several provinces called Iktas. Each Ikta was administered by an officer or noble called Iktadar, who collected land revenue and also maintained law and order. So I have so far informed you that it was not possible for one ruler to control such a vast territory. So Iltutmish had annexed his lands up to here. So from here, suppose Iltutmish is sitting here, Delhi. Iltutmish is sitting here in Delhi, and he had annexed Indian territories up to this place. Then here it is looking at the distance is so short, but in the real distances, is it so short? Is it so less? The distances are even much more. The distances are much larger, right? So sitting Iltutmish is at this place. It is not possible for Iltutmish to rule up to here, right? So what they used to do? They used to they used to deploy, or they used to choose authorities who would rule these different places. I mean, these places would come under the empire of Iltutmish, but since it was not possible for Iltutmish to rule such a vast territory. So what he did, he deployed different authorities to rule all these territories, but under the empire of Iltutmish himself, right? So he several provinces, he gave these provinces names as Iktas, and every every administration or every authority in this Iktas were called officer or nobles or Iktidar, right? And they also maintained law and order in these places, right? So let's go to the next page. So he was the first to mint gold and silver coins, right? So he was the first ruler in India who prepared gold coins or silver coins. Iltutmish completed Qutub Minar and also built his own tomb in red sandstone in Delhi. So it was Iltutmish who finished Qutub Minar, because Qutub Minar was started by Qutubuddin Aibak, but it was not completed by him. So his successors completed actually Qutub Minar, the construction of Qutub Minar. So Iltutmish was the ruler who constructed the who completed the construction of Qutub Minar. He also made his own tomb in red sandstone in Delhi. It was a he was a patron of art and learning. So what is patron? I have already so far told you meaning of patron, right? So he was a patron of art and learning. Learned scholars driven into exile from various parts of India found refuge in his court. So learned scholars who were driven away from their countries, so they used to come to India for their shelters. So it was Iltutmish who gave them shelters. It was Iltutmish who gave shelters to these refugees. They were also called refugees because once anybody is exiled from their own country, or they are driven away from their own country, and if suppose they take shelter in another country, then in that case they are called refugees. So they were refugees because they had come from other countries and they had come to India in order to take shelter in the court of Iltutmish. Iltutmish is regarded as the true founder of Delhi Sultanate, and he transformed the loosely knit Gori territories in India into strong, well-defined, compact state. So it was Iltutmish who actually in the real manners, in the real way, constructed Delhi Sultanate, right? So he made Delhi Sultanate strong and well-defined and compact. Razia Sultan. Now Razia Sultan. Iltutmish nominated his daughter Razia Sultan as his successor. Now Razia Sultan was a girl, so his nobles means his courtiers, they did not accept her as the ruler because of her being a woman. So Prince Ruknuddin Firoz Shah was made the Sultan. So he was made the Sultan. He was also, I think, the son. Yes, he was the son of Iltutmish, but he was not chosen as. Iltutmish did not choose Firoz Shah as his successor because he knew that Firoz Shah was a pleasure-loving, worthless ruler. That's why Iltutmish did not want Firoz Shah to become the successor after his death. So that is why he. And on the other hand, Razia Sultan was a very brave woman, and she was very brave. At the same time, she was an able ruler, she was an efficient ruler. So that's why noticing all these, or having noticed all these qualities in his daughter, Iltutmish decided that Razia Sultan would be the next ruler after his death. But as she was a woman, so his nobles or his courtiers did not accept her as the ruler in his court. So he was Firoz Shah ultimately became the ruler, but he was pleasure loving and worthless ruler. So after a brief span of 7 months only, he was deposed, or he was the throne was taken from his hands, and Rajia, after all, ultimately Rajia in 1236 to 1239, she ascended the throne, or she became the ruler. Rajia was brave and intelligent, just woman. She was a just woman. That means she believed in justice. She used to do justice with his subjects, with her subjects. She possessed all the qualities of a great monarch, and she sat in open darbar and transacted business. She dressed like a man, rode horses, led armies into battle, warfare. Her subjects were primary duty. So she was a very good ruler. She was very efficient. She used to take care of his subjects. She took part in war also. Even in spite of being a woman, she used to take part in wars. The provincial governors rose in revolt against her. Now the governors of his state, once again they rose against her, because in the very beginning they did not want a woman to become the ruler of their court. So after some time, after 2 or 3 years, they did not control themselves, and they rose against her. Rajia tried to crush the revolt, but she was defeated and imprisoned. After all, she was a woman, so nobody gave I mean, nobody supported her, so she could not defeat these governors. She could not defeat the revolt. She could not crush the kind of revolt which took place against her by her governors. So after ultimately she was imprisoned. She was sent to the jail. She won over the leader of rebels, Altunia, by marrying him. Their attempt to recover the throne of Delhi ended in failure, and both were killed in 1240. Now, what she did, Altunia was a boy, or whoever he was. He was one of the rebels, and Altunia wanted Rajia Sultan to marry him. So Rajia Sultan accepted his proposal, because she knew if she married Altunia, then maybe she would by marrying somebody from rebels, maybe she would be able to win back her throne. So that's why she married Altunia. But after marrying Altunia, both of them tried to win back their throne, but they could not, and they were ultimately killed in 1240. So this is how Mamluk dynasty or slave dynasty of Qutbuddin Aibak ended. After 6 years, now what happened? After 6 years, internal strife and turmoil, some nobles placed Nasruddin Muhammad, the youngest son of Iltutmish, on the what happened? Youngest son of Nasruddin Muhammad, the youngest son of Iltutmish, on the throne. He was a virtuous person, but he was weak and inexperienced. So that is why I said with Rajia Sultan itself, the Qutbuddin Aibak dynasty came to an end, because lastly when Nasruddin Muhammad, he was the youngest son of Iltutmish, of course, but he was very weak, he was inexperienced, and he was very young also. So he could not obviously he could not run the whole empire. He could not rule that territory. So Ghiyasuddin Balban, the leader of group of nobles, began to manage the affairs of the state, and Balban ruled the Sultanate for 20 years on behalf of Nasruddin. Right? So on behalf of Nasruddin, actually he was not able to, he was incapable, he was an inexperienced young boy, so it was not possible on his part to rule such a vast territory. So on behalf of Nasruddin, it was Ghiyasuddin Balban who was the leader of the group of nobles. Mane, he was the leader of the courtiers. So he, on behalf of Nasruddin, Ghiyasuddin Balban ruled the whole territory for 20 years. Now we will study about Ghiyasuddin Balban. Nasruddin died in 1266. Now obviously Kutubuddin Aibak, the dynasty of Kutubuddin Aibak or slave dynasty or Mamluk dynasty ended with Rajia Sultan or Nasruddin, because we cannot say Nasruddin because he was a very young ruler, and he even could not rule, even his name was not there as ruler. Rather, on behalf of him, Ghiyasuddin Balban was ruling the state or the whole vast territory. So with Rajia Sultan, you could say that the whole Mamluk dynasty came to an end. Now Ghiyasuddin Balban. So this was the kind of this was the kind of thing, or this was the kind of things happening generation wise, that once someone who is the slave in the empire of a ruler, the same slave becomes the ruler after the death of that ruler. In same thing happened in case of Kutubuddin Aibak also. Kutubuddin was a slave in the empire of Ghori. Now after the death of Ghori, he himself became the ruler of India, Delhi. Now as the dynasty of Kutubuddin ended or disintegrated, the same Ghiyasuddin Balban, who was himself a noble, only a small noble, only an unimportant noble in the courts of Kutubuddin Aibak, in the courts of Iltutmish, who was of course the successor of Mamluk dynasty, one of the successors of Mamluk dynasty. So he was just a small, unimportant or trivial noble or trivial ruler in the courtier of Iltutmish. Now this Ghiyasuddin Balban, being a slave or being an unimportant or trivial leader in the empire of Iltutmish, he ruled the whole territory for 20 years, right? And now after the death of Nasruddin, Balban ascended the throne of Delhi. See, now just he was a slave, and now as Nasruddin died, because on behalf of Nasruddin, Balban was ruling the territories. As Nasruddin died in 1266, this Balban ascended the throne. Now he was just a slave in the court of Iltutmish. Now the same slave became the ruler after Nasruddin died, or after the disintegration of the Kutubuddin Aibak dynasty or the slave dynasty. One more slave ascended the throne. So this is how the things were going on. This is how they were ruling India. This is how they were ruling different territories of India. Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban was an experienced and capable ruler. Of course, here you can see that he ruled Delhi for 20 years. So he had become so experienced and capable. Now he believed in the theory of divine kingship, and the king was God's representative on earth. So Ghiyasuddin Balban believed in the divine kingship. It was believed by him, or he believed in the kingdom of God. He believed that it was none other than God who ruled the earth, or who had got his representative on the earth. So let's go to the next page. So it is said that Balban never smiled, and no one was allowed to laugh or joke. So it is so hazy, I am not able to read it. Or joke in it. So he was a very serious kind of person, and never laughed, and nobody was allowed to crack jokes, and nobody was allowed to smile in his court. So in order to show his respect, the nobles had to touch ground with their foreheads to show their respect to him. So nobles had to touch their foreheads to the grounds in order to show respect to him. Balban made the monarchy absolute, all powerful, right? He reorganized the army, strengthened both infantry and cavalry, so different kinds of armies, he strengthened them, and he reorganized his army, made them more and more strong. An elaborate spy system, jasus system in Hindi, jasus system, he also set up an elaborate jasusi system. A tribe that robbed travelers and created serious law and order problems, ruthlessly suppressed. So a tribe, there was a tribe who used to rob travelers, so there was a serious, he made a serious laws and rules about this problem, and he ruthlessly suppressed this tribe who used to rob travelers. Security and stability replaced lawlessness and disorder. So they were earlier, there were lawlessness, there were no laws, there were disorder everywhere, but after becoming the ruler, Ghiyasuddin Balban made all this secured and more stable. These peaceful and stable conditions were favorable for the development of agriculture, trade, commerce, and led to the economic prosperity of the kingdom. So the whole state was in a stable condition. He made his state entirely stable and more lawful, and following all these things, it was so it was so natural for the state to become rich as far as agriculture, trade, and commerce were concerned. So on account of which his state, his kingdom became had achieved a lot of prosperity, right? Prosperity means a lot of wealth. Bourbon mercilessly suppressed the ambitious Turkish nobles. So once again, Turkish nobles, these nobles uh, tried to rise against Iltutmish also. We had studied in the beginning of the third part of this lesson that they tried to rise against Iltutmish also. Iltutmish also defeated them, crushed their revolt. The same thing Balban also did. He also suppressed these Turkish nobles. The governor of Bengal, Turkish Khan, revolted against the Balban and began to rule independently. Now the governor of Bengal and Tughl something Khan, again I am not able, you see yourself, some name, so revolted against the Sultan and began to rule independently. Balban, an old man of 70, personally marched against him. Tughril Khan, his entire family and all his supporters were killed. So this portion I am not getting. Balban and who revolted against whom? Actually this is so hazy, I am not getting. The governor of Bengal revolted against Sultan and began to rule independently. So they revolted against Balban, right? Balban was now a man of 70. He personally marched against him. His entire family, Tughlaq Khan. Oh, okay. So when Tughril Khan revolted against Balban, then Balban was still a man of his worth, because he was a man of 70 years old, right? But he was a man of worth. So he personally tried to defeat Tughril Khan, and his entire family and all his supporters were killed. So he personally attacked Tughril Khan and killed him, and killed all his supporters personally. He was really a great man. Balban never left his capital to conquer new territories, although he had a well-equipped army. Right? So Balban never left his capital. He had a well-equipped army. He was sure that Mongols would take advantage of his absence and invade his kingdom. So why he did not leave his capital? He never left Delhi. Of course, he was the king of Delhi, so he never left Delhi alone, because he knew that Mongol would take advantage of this situation. As he left his Delhi, his Sultanate, and goes anywhere else in order to attack, or if he had got the intention of annexing, intention of adding some other territories to his own land, then he would have to leave Delhi alone. But if he did so, then Mongol Changez Khan, if Changez Khan was still there, Mongols were on the lookout for attacking Delhi, so he did not want to leave Delhi alone, because he knew that Mongol was going to take advantage of that situation. He adopted several measures to strengthen his defense against Mongol invasion. So he adopted different measures. He tried his best to keep his state safe against the invasion of, or against the attacks of, Mongol. He appointed his own sons as governor of frontier provinces. He appointed his own sons in the frontier provinces, right? Like frontier provinces means, I have already shown you that area, Sindh, Punjab, and one more area. I mean that area, that frontier position, you can see in the map I have already shown you. He appointed his own son as the governor. New forts were built and old ones repaired. This is also one of the, this was also one of the measures he had taken against the invasion of Mongols, that he got different forts constructed, and he also got different forts repaired which were not in good position. The army was also kept in state of readiness, and the armies were also all the time they were ready to fight. So these were some of the measures he had taken against Mongol invasion. So Balban died in 1286, and his successors were weak and incompetent. For 4 years later, the Mamluk dynasty came to an end. The Mamluk dynasty belongs to Balban, and the slave dynasty belongs to Kutubuddin Aibak, right? So Kutubuddin Aibak's slave dynasty also came to an end, and Mamluk dynasty came to an end after Balban himself, because his successors were weak and they were incompetent, they were inefficient. So the Delhi Sultanate passed into the hands of Khilji dynasty, right? So who was Khilji? Khilji was one of the governors. See here, I think here somewhere here we have read about Khilji. So Khilji was one of the governor, I think, governors of Bengal, if I am not mistaken. So this dynasty or Delhi Sultanate passed into the hands of Khilji dynasty, right? And this is how Mamluk dynasty also came to an end. So this is how the chapter ends, and today I mean this chapter we have already finished. If you like my ways of teaching, my ways of explanation, please like, subscribe and share my videos with your friends, and also do subscribe to the to my channel, and don't forget to press on the bell icon which is just right next to the subscribe button, right? And okay, then we are going to be meeting in our next video with some new chapter. Till then, bye bye.